What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the greatest combat sports and coach show in the entire universe. You know, we talking about the Fight Podcast, and today is a special day because, man, I had to bring my brother back on. It's been a minute. My brother from the guru, B-Cam. Brother, welcome to the show.
Man, you don't love me no more, man. You don't be bringing me on the show, man. This is some bullshit. And I be talking to you. That's the thing. I talk to you like probably more than I speak to anybody else. You ain't have me on the show. You on the East Coast. You really ain't got no excuses. Where have I been? Where have I been?
I mean, you tell me. This man's been vacation. Every time I see him, he's on a new zip code. He out here just out there, you know, jet setting. You know, so don't put that on me, man. You out here living that life.
Same zip code, same little chandelier in the background. I'll be here in Southeast DC. You know where I'm at. You know where any place, anytime. Come on now.
Well, look, if B-Cam is here, you guys know we are talking about all things boxing. And look, finally we get him back on because there's finally some consistent boxing and some interesting things to talk about. So everybody who's watching live right now on the YouTube, thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you follow the Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available. Apple, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, all that good stuff. And check out all of our episodes as well right here on YouTube. All right. Now we got that out the way. Let's talk about it. The biggest news of the week. Unfortunately, it is not the performance of our boy Danny Garcia, but we have to talk about this because it is what it is. It's the biggest news in all of boxing. Jake Paul versus Hasim Rahman Jr. is off. B,
Finito.
When you first heard this, yo, man, what went through your bones, man? What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
I was annoyed. You know, like one thing that Jake Paul can do, like Jake Paul has a name. Like Absolutely. Whether you say he's good at boxing, whether you say he's good at social media, the man has a name. And when people have a name like that, especially someone like him who has proven at least a little bit in the ring, you want to see what's up, especially now that it's against a legitimate boxer, a heavyweight. So one of the knocks on Jake Paul has been he's fighting guys smaller than him. Okay, you're fighting a guy bigger than him. You're not fighting boxers. Okay, he's fighting a legitimate boxers. So all the questions that we've had in the past were going to be answered this weekend. I think they were going to be answered in the form of a Jake Paul knockout, but we won't get to see that now, will we?
Whoa, wait. You in the form of Jake Paul knocking out Rahman? That's what
No, Jake Paul being knocked out. My bad.
Okay. Man, I thought we were about to have a whole different discussion.
Good point of clarification. Yeah, good point of clarification. No, I would not fight you on that. I thought Jake Paul was going to be knocked out. Maybe not cold, but he was definitely getting TKO'd, and I think it was going to happen very early. People see those fights against guys like Tyron Woodley, and they're like, "Oh, Jake Paul," and I'm like, "My fights were fucking terrible." Like that second fight against Tyron Woodley was terrible. Great knockout. You can't take anything away from Mr. Paul for that.
The knockout was beautiful.
Aside from that, the shit was terrible, just bad.
Bro, it was one of the worst professional boxing fights I've ever seen in my life. It was
not a single
awful.
boxer in the ring.
Not a single boxer in the ring. It was pretty bad when you look at it that way. But let me ask you this, because as soon as it happened, you know, Jake Paul runs to Twitter and Instagram, puts out a statement, essentially takes Rahman by his beautiful locks and throws him directly under the bus and said it's all on him. He pulled out. It's his fault. I have to ask you, because you hearing it everywhere. I'm hearing people that I respect dragging Rahman, and I hear people that, you know, other people have different opinions. What is your thoughts? Who is to blame when it comes to this fight falling through?
So given some of my earlier commentary, you may think that, hey, this guy does not like Jake Paul. That is actually contrary to the truth. I do like Jake Paul.
Hey, really quick, your mic started going a little fuzzy.
Can you hear
me? I could hear you, but all of a sudden it got a little robotic on me. Just want to make sure we're getting the best audio for you.
You know what? Let's we got a quick audible.
Man, oh, Trusty Dusty. We can't go wrong with Trusty Dusty. Hold fast for 1 second. We got the man here, but there we go. So I mean, now here's the thing for those listening. Also, I mean, Rahman was definitely the second person to come in. We didn't expect him here.
How we sound?
Say it again.
How do we sound?
Ah, man, you still sound like you're underwater. Unfortunately.
What about now?
There we go. He's back.
Okay.
He is back.
Sorry about that. Not sure what's happening. You know, I got to work on a different device now. But what I was saying is that it may sound like I don't like Jake Paul, but I'm actually a really big Jake Paul. I wouldn't say a big Jake Paul fan, but I am a Jake Paul supporter. I think he brings a lot of eyes to the sport, and whenever you bring eyes to the sport, that is a good thing. I like what he's done. I like what he's done for Amanda Serrano. And when you see him outside of those promotional settings, he does have some good, educated words about the sport of boxing and really combat sports in general. So I do like a lot of things about Jake Paul. I'm not necessarily a Jake Paul hater. However, in this scenario,
no reason to hate. We appreciate here. We're a fighter first show over here.
In this scenario, Hakeem Rahman's wrong. Like, I know that we've spoken about this, and Hakeem Rahman will try to basically blame Jake Paul for weight draining him. Nigga, I don't give a fuck. Like, this is the sport of boxing. You are someone that's been around boxing your entire life. Your father was a boxer. Now, maybe you can argue he doesn't have experience with this because his father didn't have to cut weight. He doesn't necessarily have to cut weight because they're heavyweights. But this is normal in boxing. The A side gets to dominate negotiations. We don't necessarily remember that Floyd Mayweather dropped a dime on Diego Corrales and he drained him for that fight. We remember one of the best performances that we've ever seen Floyd Mayweather.
Five knockdowns?
Five, six knockdowns. Beautiful performance overall. That's what we remember. We don't remember that Diego Corrales was weight drained. This is just a sport of boxing. This is what the A side gets to do.
When you look at Manny Pacquiao against Miguel Cotto, you don't think about the weight drain. You think about the knockout. Exactly. Now, I will say this, and this is my only pushback, because I agree with you when we look at it in terms of you sign the contract. It's interesting to me because you have people, for instance, like a Sean Porter who called to a T exactly what was going to happen. They go out there, they kind of force them into it. You take this or leave it. This is all we got. There's no negotiation. You take this or leave it right now. He takes it. Huge opportunity. We all understand. Nobody's hating on Rahman for taking the opportunity. Now, you're having somebody who has never had to cut that weight before, trying to bring him all the way down to 205. Now, here's my thing. The other thing, even before I even get to that, they called the fight. He's 10 pounds away. They call it a week out.
He was not 10 pounds away.
I don't know about you. Regardless, we don't know. You aren't in the room. I ain't in the room. We don't know. They say he was roughly between 10 to 15 pounds away. I would look at weight cutting in MMA all the time. People usually are cutting that last bit of weight, even up to those large amounts, up to a week left. So did I think he was going to actually make 200 or 205? No. 207, 208, probably. So when I think of it in that regard, he still had a week to go. You also have stipulations in the contract that state if he goes out here and he misses, anytime he misses by a pound, it's 25% of his purse, if up to 4 pounds. And then after that 4 pounds, he gets the minimum, which is $5,000, but the fight will go out there and proceed. That is what the original contract stated. I don't understand why when that happens, all of a sudden the commission is coming up and weighing this man every week leading up to it. I've never heard that before. I don't understand why that's happening. I don't he's already has to weigh in the day of the fight and the day after the fight, which is already kind of rare in the way he does it. The fact that they came every week to do that, look, I'm telling you right now, the more I think about it, the more it stinks. And the more I say, look, I generally do not believe Jake Paul wanted to fight this fight. I'm telling you, this is where I'm at now with it, because there's no reason with a week left. He canceled the entire card. What? It makes no sense.
Jake Paul has fought his boxing matches at 190 pounds, and if you guys follow the sport of boxing,
I hear you. No, that's neither here nor there. We get that he does that. We know where he fights, but again, you the big man. I'm going out here on the contract as well as you the big dog on the block. You've been barking, you've been woofing, you've been saying all this, that you want this dude, you want this, you want that, you want. If you are that guy and you are the savior of boxing, like you're calling it, I hear what you're saying, and realistically, you're probably right. I fight at 190, and that's why I think it's ridiculous that he fought Tyron Woodley, who fought his career at 170 and had to fight this fight at 190. I think it's ridiculous that he continues calling out Conor McGregor, who fights his best at 155, and he wants to fight him, and this kid walks around at 210. That is ridiculous when you look at it. So that's why when I look at it in the totality of it, it's like, yo, you just at the end of the day, you just didn't want to smoke. Because if you really thought you were gonna beat this dude, you would have just went out there and did it, and then said, look, I went out here, y'all thought this dude was so bad, he's a heavyweight, and I whooped his ass. You had it all set up for you, and he still chose not to do it. For me, I'm not a fan of that move, but I do agree with you. I am a fan of what Jake Paul has been doing to this point.
Sergio,
last thing on this one, we can move on.
Jake Paul has to promote the fight. Of course,
1,000%.
Of course, you're going to speak like the big bad wolf. But he's not Floyd Mayweather. He's not going to sit there, show up on fight night, giving up 15, 20, 30 pounds. He's going to get his ass killed. And he understands that, and you understand that, and I understand that. Hakeem Rahman signed the contract, and nigga, you of all people, I have heard you so many times drag niggas from fucking pole to pole.
Wait, time out. But I've dragged actual professional fighters that have done this consistently, and there's a specific code of conduct and honor that I abide by, and I appreciate it. You, again, Jake, I'm fighting other dudes. I'm doing this freak show, all this other stuff. The rules are skewed a little bit, and I understand that. So for you, I'm going to play by the same rule book that you have been playing with. You've been playing with the rule book that, look, I can fight dudes 20 pounds out of their weight class. If you call this man, because here's my thing. There were plenty of cruiserweights that were available, and you didn't choose any of them. There was plenty of them available. So you went out of your way to pick a heavyweight who just lost. And now, because things aren't going perfectly to the plan the way you wanted to, so you can really drain them as much as you want to, man, you should have picked the 1-0 what's his name's boy? Shavon Martin. You should have fought him. Whatever his name, you know what I'm saying? Come on,
Sergio. You cannot move the goalpost for Jake Paul. You have to keep that same energy. There is a level of professionalism when you sign the contract.
And with that, you're absolutely correct. I cannot. That's the one thing I can't knock. It did. Like I'm saying everything I don't like about it. It's nasty, but you signed the contract. Even if you might have been forced to it, you have a point. I can't even fucking argue that shit.
Because this is your point.
It's my point. And you're right. And I love that, so I appreciate that. But unfortunately, this fight isn't gonna happen. I was actually really looking forward to it, and of course, always looking forward to watching the man of Toronto perform. All right, moving right along. Let's talk about a fight that did happen this weekend. It was Danny Garcia in the home that Danny Garcia built in the Barclays Center. This man headlined the first boxing show ever at the Barclays Center. The only other person who performed before him was the great Jay-Z. So you have, him going out here, putting on a performance, first time fighting at 154 pounds against Jose Benavidez Jr. in his longest layoff to date. And you know what? He went out there and honestly put on look really good. I honestly only had Benavidez winning one round, and we'll talk about the scorecards in a moment. But how did you have it?
Yeah, I didn't have Benavidez winning any more than 3 rounds. It was a bit more competitive in the early rounds, but then Danny Garcia just took over, and what I felt was one of his best looking performances in years. I think Danny Garcia in some of his recent performances, I see him getting held back by putting his hands in his pocket. Now, we're not talking about to the level of Adrian Bronner, but he doesn't throw enough in moments where he needs to. And I think that's hurt him in some of his fights because he waits to counter. He waits to throw when somebody else is throwing. And that's been his game for a long time. And it has worked for him. But as he's moved up in weight, as his power has declined with that weight, he can't necessarily take that strategy anymore. He came with a game plan to win. And it wasn't a reactionary game plan, but it was a proactive game plan. And everybody knows how to beat Jose Benavidez. He was a blue chip prospect whose career was deep.
Brother, real quick, I think you might have pulled your cord or something. It started moving a little funny.
That might be my internet.
Oh, okay. Well, we keep it rocking. It's all good. I hear you. I hear you fine. Uh-oh. All right. As soon as we get him back, wrong way. We're going to get him back in a moment. But okay, so in terms of, like I said, we were talking about in the fight itself, Jose Benavidez here he goes. There we go. I see. Hello, you see me?
Yeah, they came by my house trying
There
to
you
give me
go.
they came by my house and tried to give me new internet today. I may take them up on that because boy, this is some bullshit.
Hey man, it is all good. But you sound great, man. But you were saying Jose Benavidez, the style, like everybody, people know how to beat him. That's what you're just saying. Or I was just saying it. Here, he'll be back in a. There he goes. I think there he is. I hear you now. You there, bro? Okay, so I'll say this. Jose Benavidez style, he is the guy who comes forward. And he isn't as mobile as he once was. I mean, a lot of people know about it. You know, he ended up getting shot in his leg at one point in time before the Terrence Crawford fight, which limited a lot of his mobility. He was a guy in Benavidez who a lot of people looked at as like a boxing prodigy. He was the chosen one, right? But he's still great. He's still a guy. If we look at his record, he only has one other loss on his record aside from Danny Garcia, and that's two. You know, Terrence Crawford, a guy who, I mean, he essentially fought on one leg, and we all know how great Terrence Crawford actually is. So there we go. There you go. My brother's back.
I changed my connection, so we shouldn't have. Hopefully, we don't have any more problems. But you know, adding on to what you were saying, Benavidez, crazy mafia styled accident, shot his ass in the knee. Not sure what type of lifestyle them boys is in. I think they out there in New Mexico.
I don't even want to know.
Leave me out of that. But he probably, his star was probably supposed to shine a little bit better than his brother David Benavidez, who gets a lot of the hype now. But he got shot in the knee, and obviously that's derailed his career because he can't move the same. And it looks like that's gotten a little bit worse. I felt like he moved a lot better when he fought Terrence Crawford. He didn't seem to be able to move that much at all, and that Danny Garcia used to his advantage as he danced around, landed his punches, really put together his combinations very, very nicely. I enjoyed what I saw. But at the end of the day, as good as Danny Garcia looked, I think one of his best performances in years, the power just isn't there at 154.
I'm glad you said that.
The power just isn't there at 154. And so when we think about where does he go next, I'm not necessarily sure he has staying power at 154 because I'm not necessarily sure we want to see him in there with our guy Jermell Charlo, who is a legitimate 154 pounder who spent his entire career at 154. I think Tony Harrison. I think that's a good fight. I think the fight that can happen, should happen, given where both guys are, is a catchweight rematch against Keith Thurman. I think that's where they go.
I'm happy you said that because that fight was so close. It was close, but it doesn't seem like it's a fight that Keith Thurman really wants.
It does.
The way he's talking. I mean, did he? Because it sounded like the first thing he said, he was like, "Yo, Danny don't want the smoke. Like I've been beat him."
Well, I mean, I think coming out and speaking on it shows that
shows interest.
Shows that you're interested in the fight because they're trying to make Keith Thurman a gatekeeper, which he is at this point because he's not active enough and he's not fighting high level fights. So if he wants to make at least those relevant fights, he has to fight guys fights like this because he turned down a fight against Conor Benn. He's not going to fight Jaron Ennis. He's not going to fight Virgil Ortiz. There are some other names out there, but he's not going to take those fights. He wants the top guys. Spence is not going to fight him. Unless and it's very possible that Spence and Crawford negotiations fall apart, but he's boxed out right now. He wants to fight again this year. Danny Garcia seems like a perfect opportunity. They do a catch weight, 149, 150, 151, somewhere around there. And that's a good fight.
Absolutely.
That's a good fight.
That's a great fight.
That's a fight that sells. It's like a lot of viewers. I think they show on a free TV or like a huge fight on a pay-per-view undercard. Either way they go, there's a ton of marketability for that fight. And I think that's the perfect direction for both of them at this point in their careers.
No, I love it. I think you're absolutely correct. That is the fight that I would, don't get me wrong, competition-wise, especially if he wants to stay at 154, I would love to see him fight Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison was at the fight. Tony Harrison said that's a fight that he would love himself. And stylistically, it would be interesting. It'd be very interesting, So, but I digress. Really quick, Danny Garcia, I think he performed beautifully. Not only that, I mean, what a promo at the end of the fight. He goes out there, shows all of his emotions, and essentially says he's been going through, the mental health and everything he's been going through. And at the end of the fight, he let out this release of emotion and just like he let it all out, man. It was really beautiful to watch. And the only thing I want to say is that, look, man, and I've heard Patty Pimblett and MMA talk about this recently and everything as well. especially for men, and I know our demo is predominantly men and things like that. Yo, man, talk to people. You know what I'm saying? Talk to people, get help. Therapy is not a bad thing. It's I love when I'm seeing that these tough guys are going out there and crying in front of people and telling people that it's okay and that they need to go out there and seek help themselves. So salute to Danny Garcia and everybody out there. Do your thing, get help, what I'm saying? Get a hug, talk to your boys, all this shit. I love it. Go. What do we got to say about that?
To that point, I'm a big podcast wise. We are fans of Errol Spence. I was not
1,000%.
I was not a fan
at
of what he was saying on Twitter.
No.
He beat Danny Garcia. I don't see Danny Garcia out here necessarily looking for a rematch. I don't like the idea of him downplaying mental health issues in the Black community. And I think stances like that are where people have issues with mental health, or why people don't see therapists. It's mentalities like that. Now, granted, absolutely, Errol Spence is a boxer. He hasn't lived the life that I've lived, and so he isn't going to be in some of those rooms and have some of those conversations that I've been privy to have that allow me to be where I'm at today. But I think there's enough out there in 2022. You're a very, very rich man. You have a PR team to know not to downplay mental health in 2022. So I felt like, given where they both are, it just felt like it was in really bad taste. Danny Garcia did take the liberty responding to him. They seemed to squash it, but that did leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. I felt like that was just really unnecessary.
I couldn't agree more. I am a huge fan, as we both are, and everybody is here at the Fight Pod. We love Errol Spence. Not one of his finer moments, unfortunately, but they squashed it. Hopefully he learns from the situation. And speaking of somebody who has struggled with the mental health and has come back in seemingly a ferocious way, Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia is back. And last thing we're going to talk about before we get up out of here is this: Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis. They're talking a lot about it. It seems like it's a fight both of them won. Will this fight happen next, B?
No.
What do you think, man? You gotta let me know. Because I'll be honest with you. This definitely would be. I'm sorry, real quick. I'll say this. By far, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford is the fight that a fight fan needs to see. I need that fight. I need it. Take my money. I need it. But if we're talking about a fight that has more commercial appeal and more box office appeal, and we're talking about an expiration date, a legitimate expiration date, I hate to say it, it's going to make more money and might have a faster expiration. We are talking about Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis. I'll explain the expiration date in a moment. But money-wise, I absolutely think Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis outsells anybody this year.
Sergio, I feel like I want a new pair of Jordans. And for whatever reason, you can't really get your hands on Jordans the regular way these days. But, I go to the store and
damn it, brother. I'm so sorry, man. Your mic is starting doing the Transformers again. Real quick.
Back? Are we back?
To talk again real quick.
Are we back?
I hear you. We'll get through it because we're almost done anyway. So it's all good. Keep going.
Is it a little bit better?
A little bit better, yeah.
Okay. So I feel like I want to go get a pair of Jordans. I go to the store. There are two pairs of Jordans, probably overpriced anyway. I only have money for one pair. I can only pick one. We are not going to. I don't see us getting both of these fights. We get Ryan versus Tank, or we get Spence Crawford. I do not see us having both because boxing does not give us nice things like that. Now, as far as your question, will it happen next? It seems like just because they've been in talks a little bit longer, that Spence Crawford should be on the agenda for November. That's the date that everybody keeps throwing around. But there seems to have been some issues, and then you see conversations seemingly have started behind the scenes with Ryan versus Tank. I think with where Ryan and Tank are in their careers, they're both a little bit younger. They've never seen this type of money before, and they're going to understand a little bit better that this fight has an expiration date. So we may actually get this fight before we get Spence Crawford, because Spence Crawford, I think they have an elevated view of what that fight actually is. They think it's worth more than it is, and I think this fight actually sells more than that fight. So they're going to try to get as much money as they can up front, whereas because they've seen those big paydays before, especially Errol Spence, Tank and Ryan and King Ryan have not seen those paydays before. They're going to see a really big number. It just makes sense for the both of them. It does.
Absolutely.
If Ryan really wants to fight, it's going to make sense for him. And as far as Tank is concerned, Tank should go in there feeling confident as if he's the favorite. So there's no reason for him to not take the fight. I must sound bad. I can see your face.
I was trying to fix it. I was like, I'm definitely gonna let you finish, but it still sounds like you're a transformer. Sounds like you're like Optimus Prime.
Yeah, that's the internet. I'll figure that out for next time.
No worries, man. But look, honestly, that is about all the time we have today. B, bro, it has been a pleasure talking boxing with you, man. We have to do this far more often. Here, we gonna get him. There we go.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine. Being here, we definitely got to figure this out. I got to figure out my setup again because I can't use the laptop that I used to use. So I'll figure out something else, a new setup with a more stable internet connection. But we will figure it out. We will be back. I'll be back soon. I can't wait because I miss these conversations. I miss being here. And who else you gonna have? That's like me. Come on now. Who else is gonna be here and talk boxing like me? I don't care about who else you got. You know, be on here. He could be cool, but like boxing, come on now.
You know what, brother? You're right. You my guy. I said, hey, you the guru for a reason. All right. But yo, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching us live here tonight. For episode 1. I actually called this episode 1 of the Guru's Corner because I anticipated us doing this far more regularly. You see that? You talk about put some respect on your name, brother. Y'all put it up there for the
Appreciate that, man. I will be back soon, bro. Cannot wait. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, brother. When everybody else, thank you guys so much for watching live today. Remember, listen to the Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available: Apple, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Check us out at thefightpodcast.com. Also, make sure check out the merch. We got some dope merch game. Etsy.com/shop/thefightpodshop. We got hoodies, we got sweatshirts, we got all kinds of dope shit, mugs. Check us out. And last but not least, check out all the shows on the Fight Pod Network. Absolutely, the Fight Podcast, Guru's Corner here. And you know who you got. And last but certainly not least, if you're watching now, you can check it out right afterwards. Make sure you check out the Royal Rundown This Week in Pro Wrestling. Aside from that, love y'all. What's that? Go ahead.
Shout out to I was thinking about this. We didn't get a chance to talk about it today. But I don't know if you saw the undercard of the BENAVIDEZ GARCIA fight where Gary Antonio Russell fought, and it was a really bad stoppage.
Oh,
it felt like
we got to talk about that fight next week. We'll definitely talk about that.
I only say that because I wanted to make a little wrestling joke. It felt like the Montreal Screwjob. That's what it felt like.
Oh, yo,
it felt like the Montreal Screwjob.
That has to be one of. If you guys haven't checked it out, you need to. Is
the Brooklyn Screwjob
the worst? The Brooklyn Screwjob. It is the worst stoppage I have ever seen in boxing. Absolutely terrible. And at the end of the day, it's bad for both guys. It sucks. It really does suck. I hate that it happened. But on a positive end, yo, boxing is back, and there's been some really good boxing. Some of these young dudes coming up, or you need to watch out. B and I will be talking about that and a whole lot more coming up soon. So. With that being said, love y'all. Oh, my bad, B. Let them know where else to find you, because you be out here tweeting some wild shit.
Yeah, only on Twitter at MyWatchGospel. So spelled normally, and that's about it. I don't really be on Instagram too much, but you got my Instagram name right here, BCAM13 with 2 M's. So yeah, I do follow back, whatever it is. We can always talk boxing, debate sports, whatever the case may be, man. I'm there for it. And yeah, man, shout out to my guy Sergio for having me. Follow him, listen to him anywhere you can listen to your podcast. He got like a whole litany of shows now. It's a podcast network. It's not just this show anymore. It's a network. My guy is doing it. He's working hard as fuck. The hardest working man in the business. So shout out to you, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Seriously, man. I love doing this. And eventually, I swear to you, we are going to have an in-studio show one day. We got to. But with that being said, love y'all. We did this in less than 30. Come on, now you gotta love
first time we've ever done that.
First time ever. And check it out. If y'all want boxing, make sure you like, share, subscribe, let everybody know about it. And until then, we'll see you next time right here on the Fight Podcast Guru's Corner. Peace.